rise for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Alvarez.
Here.
Councilwoman Eckhart.
Here.
Councilwoman Hudak.
Here.
Councilman Lord.
Here.
Supervisor Hay.
Here. Okay, make a motion to come out of the executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No action was taken. Exits in the front and the rear, and electronic device, please put it on vibrate. Okay. Work session, discussion, Brewster Emergency Shelter Partnership. Over here, if you would,
Yeah,
to the
you
mic.
need the mic, yes. And Judy, they won't pick up anything unless you talk into the mic
Okay.
and for the cameras.
All right.
so.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me the chance to address you tonight for the Shelter Partnership. I'm kind of new with the partnership. I've been there about a year. Gail and Tom Pease are with me. Gail is the chairman of the board, and Tom is the treasurer. But I'm going to start just to give you a little background. The shelter's been operating for 11 years in the village of Brewster. It came about as a response to someone dying, freezing to death in the winter. And so a group of concerned residents came together, and the churches and the temple and everybody got together, and they formed this nonprofit, the Brewster Emergency Shelter Partnership, to provide emergency housing in the winter months only. We only operate 4 months out of the year. The shelter has many, many, many people involved with it, all of whom are volunteers. The board are all volunteers. All the people from the churches are volunteers. We have only one paid staff, and that's an overnight supervisor. And to give you an idea, he only makes $15 an hour, okay? But he or there may be two people sharing it, but only one works at a time. So it's $15 an hour, 7 nights a week for 4 months. That is our main expense. We have insurance expenses on top of that, supplies, food. A lot of the food is donated. The food is cooked by different members of the various congregations and brought, and we have meals for the folks. We give them with something in the morning. They don't come into the shelter till 9 o'clock at night, and they have to leave at 6 o'clock in the morning. There's a perception that Brewster has a homeless problem. And Brewster does, and so does Southeast, and so does Carmel, and so does Patterson and Kent, and probably every other town in this country. What's happening is that Brewster has not a solution, because if it was a solution, there would be no homeless people, but we're helping these people, and we're helping to keep, someone else from dying from the cold. We're trying to give them a place to go at night. And in the 11 years that we've been operating, the money has all come from donations, private donations, and from the churches. The churches have different programs, but we're really facing a crisis this year. Not all the money is coming through as it has in the past. At the end of this past season, which ended at the end of March, right? We have $2,000, and it costs us close to $30,000 a year to operate. So, we're trying to come up with a plan. We're trying to come up with a multifaceted plan to raise money on an ongoing basis to keep this shelter alive, because the cost to the county would be staggering if we had a permanent shelter. There are so many rules and regulations associated with that. And even now, we're in very close contact with the Commissioner of Social Services. He works with us to help us out, to do what we need to just keep people housed, sheltered, and fed. And there is some money available from the state, but that money comes with, strings attached, and we can't meet those requirements because those requirements have to do with the buildings and the electrical and sprinkler systems and everything else that is required of a permanent shelter. And the old churches that we are utilizing for this shelter just can't meet that. So we can't, even though there is some money there, we cannot take advantage of it. The only way we could take advantage of it is if we became a permanent shelter that operated all year long, and besides the rules and regulations, then the costs would grow incrementally. It would just be ridiculous, beyond our ability to do it. Our board is made up of volunteers. Many of us are still working, and the volunteers often get called to spend the night, and these people do it. So we're really saving the county, the towns, we're saving everybody a lot of money by operating this way. And I know that this is unusual to come to a town board and ask for your help, but we're really trying just to keep our heads above water and be able to open this coming winter season. As I said, we're working on a plan, a more long-term plan for fundraising, so that, you know, hopefully we wouldn't have to come back and ask for this money, but we're just trying to keep the doors open for next season. So that's really where we stand right now. We're reaching out to all the municipalities in the county. We're reaching out to the county itself. We're looking at foundation grants. We're looking at ways to just raise money from individuals. But we're trying to fit this in our spare time and just have enough to open the doors, because, you know, 15 people a night, I think that was our high water mark this past year. Yeah. So we're talking 15 people a night coming there. It varies from year to year. It varies from night to night. But that's a lot of people. And if you go to the county and ask them, what's the count, the overall count of the homeless in the county, I believe that number is around 35. And they're coming from all different towns. They're winding up in the village of Brewster in the evening because they know there's a place to sleep. But they're not there all day, and they don't necessarily come from Brewster. They come from all over. But we're seeing men, we're seeing women. We even saw a child brought to the door one night this year. Now, we can't take children in. We had to call the Sheriff's Department, the Department of Social Services, and they come and intervene in a case like that, because we can't take that on. We can't take that responsibility for children. But there's more people out there than you would think. There's many people who are not being counted in this number, and they're living in their cars. There are different businesses that will let them park. There's gas stations that will let them park their vehicles and sleep there overnight. And there's businesses in the county, I don't know all of them, but they let people come and kind of just sit during the day, as long as they're not disruptive, have a cup of coffee, whatever it is, just to keep warm. So there's a lot of people working on this. I mean, it's certainly this partnership, the Emergency Shelter Partnership, but there's a lot of businesses. So there's a lot of people involved in preventing these people from freezing to death. So, you know, we just, in order to stay open and in order to, you know, continue with our mission, we really felt that we had to reach out, which is the reason I'm here tonight. So, does anybody have any questions?
Well, I don't have questions. I have some comments, so
Okay.
to speak. I did try to research this beforehand. This very organization came to the county when I was a Putnam County legislature. I sat there for 19 years. You said 11 years. So that brings it back to around 2007. At one point in time, I left the legislature in 2011. So between those 4 years, one of your people from your organization, I had his name and I just lost it. Rick Stockberger.
Okay.
Came to the legislature, and we were informed by council at that time that gifting of funds would be unacceptable. I haven't had an opportunity to research it further. I tried to go back and find the minutes of the meeting, but I don't know exactly what year that took place. So it's like the gifting of funds, and then if we pick one over another, right now, from what I understand of it, it can't be done. So it's going to, have to be researched by the town to see if it isn't, and then we have to make a determination, how do we pick and choose who gets these kinds of funds? Now, right now in our budget, by state law, we're allowed to give it to the veterans organizations. There's 2 of them, and they're limited, I think it's less than $2,000 each. We have two groups in this town, the VFW
Okay.
and American Legion, and we contribute to them. So we may be limited or maybe non-existent to provide such funds.
Okay.
If I could speak to that, what the supervisor is speaking of is this New York State Constitution prohibits the use of public funds for private purposes. What you are is a not-for-profit, but it's
Correct.
still a private purpose. And unless there's specific legislation providing for the ability to use taxpayer monies for certain services, if you will, the municipalities essentially is stopped from doing that because of the constitutional provisions. I think it's Article 8 of the Constitution.
Okay. Can I ask a question, because I don't really know. Were we a I'm going to ask you this, Gail, first. Were we a nonprofit at that point in time that
Yes.
Mr. Hayes talking about we were?
2009.
Okay.
It doesn't make any difference whether you're a not-for-profit
Okay.
or a for-profit. The fact is you're a private, not a non-public entity.
We served.
I guess my question would be whether, because the service that we're providing is a
You,
service.
sir, could you go to the mic because they can't hear you if you don't mind?
I see that our services are really a public service, and there is service to all the communities in Eastern Putnam County especially. So would that assist your evaluation if we could document in what ways we serve the public good, like law enforcement by having those people in a place to sleep, and things like that assist the town in their performing their public
Well,
duties that they have.
that's assuming that there's something that imposes that responsibility on a town
Oh, okay.
or any other level of government. We do have, in the New York State Social Services Law, they have provision and they provide in the state budget for funding for homeless shelters and homeless housing. I don't believe that it is a function imposed upon the town to provide.
No, it's not, but I know some of the homeless people that we have, most of the local police departments appreciate the service we're doing when they come across homeless people on the street, especially in the cold winter night, or if they're misbehaving. They meet them, evaluate them, and determine if they're breaking the law. Obviously, they take the responsibility to do that. If they're not breaking a serious law and they really need a place to stay, then they'll bring them to us. So we're really working with those local police departments to try to, effectively help and manage these people. And I know that, I don't know where the boundary is between the public and a private responsibility in doing that kind of work with the police departments. But it seems to me like
I
we're
spent a pretty
working
good
with
deal
them.
of time this past week at the request of the supervisor to try to find whether there's a controller's opinion or some other authority that would show that this was an exempt or an act that was exempt from the blanket prohibition of the Constitution that prohibits gifts and loans of public funds. And I wasn't able to find one. If somebody can provide me with direction, then I would certainly consider looking at it and advising the town board accordingly. But unless we have something that shows our ability to do that, it's tough for me as an attorney to recommend that this is something they can do without being scrutinized by the state controller.
I have a question on that. I think we give about, is it $30,000 a year to the Humane Society?
That's a
That's
contract.
pursuant to a contract.
Right.
We have a responsibility to provide for
Dogs.
For dogs.
But not for
That-
humans, that's my
But
point.
that, the
sorry?
state and federal government provides these assistance, and if any of these individuals need assistance and they go to the Department of Social Services for the county, they would be taken care of.
Under the state agricultural law, we have a responsibility to provide for the sheltering of dogs that are picked up, abandoned or stray in our community.
Right, okay.
That's why we have these concepts.
So you're saying social services will not, why?
They send them to us, okay? Social services, if you have a family or an adult with a child, a minor child, social services will house them immediately. And in some circumstances, if a person is deemed to be maybe, possibly a risk to other people, they will house them as well. But when you just find, some person out on the street for whatever reason, they send them to us. Now, I can't argue whether that's should be or shouldn't be, but it is. That's the reality.
What is your,
Yeah, I
What's your
think really what it comes down to is what we're being counseled by council is regardless of how, and I get it, how strange it is that a government might be more apt to provide for animals, and I know we're all big dog lovers too, as opposed to human beings. So I understand that. I think really what I'm seeing here is, and I'll just speak for myself, in a heartbeat, I would love to help you, because obviously it is a great service. The issue is, how would we do so without running afoul of the law? And what I mean by the law, when Will speaks about the comptroller's office. So the difficulty, of course, is you're coming up against that wall. I think, I know Will is, when he says he's been researching it, and Tony, obviously, it's kind of like that would be the impediment. So I don't think the impediment, at least speaking for myself, is our desire to help you and help, particularly when you say $3,000, which, to many people is like,
Nothing.
to say it's a drop in the proverbial bucket is an understatement. But the idea is, how else can we do it? Now, you've been speaking with who, Mike Piazza?
Correct.
Okay, so, and I also know Mike's been in this business for
Yes.
many years.
Yes.
So, once again, if I know, once again, speaking for myself, if there was a way that we could find the sums and do so within the confines of the controller and what law is, because I'm cognizant of the fact that what Tony is saying is, hey, we pick this, then somebody else and somebody else, which is probably would occur. But, at this point in time, I think that's really the wall we're coming up to, even though it just sounds so incredibly strange.
What is your budget? What are you looking for from, and where are you going?
Well, it's approximately $30,000 to operate for one season, for
Okay.
the length of time that we're open now, which really isn't even long enough, because we don't open our doors till the beginning of December. November can be very cold. We close our doors at the end of March, and this April was particularly cold.
Yeah.
Yet we have to close the doors. So
And you said you're reaching out to other communities. Have you spoken to others?
no,
And what
I have not
has-
spoken with them yet.
So this is
but
your first,
This is the first.
so I wonder what the response is going to be from the other communities, if they have found legal means to make this happen for you. I think we'd like to hear that.
It's obviously different with the county than it is for the municipalities, correct? I mean,
In what sense?
well, because there are a lot of nonprofits that get money
From the county,
from the
that's
county each year. They're into the, I
Do they
work
have-
for one of
do
them.
they have contracts with the county?
Yes,
They have contracts,
yes.
yes.
So could we have a contract with the town?
but it's
Doesn't
not
work
the
that way.
town's obligation to provide that service.
I'm sorry, say it again?
It's not the town's obligation to provide that service. Is it the county's obligation to provide that service? They do
Well-
it pursuant to contract?
I don't know if it's their obligation. I can't answer that.
But the county said no back between 2007 and 2011 on the council's, the county attorney's recommendation that it not be done. I
Okay.
tried to find that information today, but I didn't know exactly what year, but now I'm closer, had to be in 2007 to 2011 when I left, and Mr.
Okay.
Stockbroker had come.
Yeah. We requested money from the county as well. When we sent the letters to the towns, we sent the letter to the county as well. They'll be starting to work on their budget for next year, I believe, somewhere in the July timeframe. So I don't know where that will go, but we definitely did ask them for money.
I would like to thank you all for everything you do. It's amazing. I don't think I would be able to do it, but I would like to say that I did speak to Sheriff Langley because I really wanted to know first of all, I think a volunteer effort is, obviously, everyone agrees that would be in everyone's best interest. There would be no tax dollars going. However, I do see that in this case, dead bodies in the woods cost us money. We have to bury them. We have to, I always think it's in our best interest to, part of our duties, to me, is keeping people safe. That's one reason we get elected. It's a primary reason we get elected. So I have a call into the coroner's office to find out, because I don't know the procedure for unclaimed bodies. I do want to find out, because I think in the long run, some funding here might save us money. rather than, by keeping people healthier and alive. I think it's important, too, for people to know, I believe, if someone comes and they're stoned or intoxicated, they are turned away, and then the sheriff's department has to deal with them. Is that correct? Am I
Yes,
right
it
on that?
is.
So, and of course, I do have a problem that we do have a responsibility to, and I love dogs, but I find it a little bit disturbing that that's where our responsibilities lie. So I really, I would like to pursue this. I'd like to see what we're allowed to do. I'd love for you to get back on your feet financially and fund it privately, but I do think in the long run, it might actually save taxpayers money to fund something like this. Because if we had to do this full-time, I can't imagine what the cost would be. But I imagine, it would be way more than 3 times. I can't, do you have any figures? Because that would be
Honestly,
really
I
helpful.
don't have the figures, but I know that, I think Mike said about $191,000.
Yeah.
He has available to him, but we can't take advantage of it because of all the rules and regulations that
Right.
our little operation just cannot comply with.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so that money sits there unused, and people remain homeless, and they still freeze to death, and we're trying, we have a very limited window of time, too, so we're trying to, in addition to just provide a place to sleep, we're trying to bring services into these people, because you're not homeless just because you're homeless. There's a multitude of factors that people are dealing with, and so we're trying to work with other agencies and, mental health associations and, substance abuse, things like that, to bring services in to, it won't eliminate the problem, but maybe it'll help a couple of people. But it's very hard to do when you only have, 9 hours and most of that time is spent asleep.
I will be happy to research further. I hope I get a call back. I never thought I'd say this. I'd be happy to get a call back from the coroner, but I will. And the sheriff has been very helpful. So I will pursue it from in that direction, and hopefully you'll get more information after you talk to the county. The county seems to be the one that's saving $191,000. So hopefully there's a way to
Yeah, that
help
money's
everyone.
coming from the state. I don't
Right.
believe it's available to
Right.
them unless it's used for a shelter, so I don't think we're
Right.
truly saving them that money, but we're just not able to access that money, which seems incredible to me, like a lot of
If they had to
things.
set up a shelter, it would cost
Right.
that kind of magnitude.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, at least. And that's a new initiative, too, under Governor Cuomo, and I don't know how long that money would be there. It's only been there now for a year or two. So there's no.
How many churches in the?
There are
town?
4 churches that are actual sleep sites.
Okay.
But there are many more. I don't know, 12? Yeah, where the folks come in and they volunteer their time and they cook and they come and just,
This is
talk to our guests.
southeast.
It's held, the sleep sites are within the village of Brewster.
Within the village, okay.
Yes.
For the 12 other congregations are, Carmel, Nail Pack.
Oh, okay.
Southeast. We even go up into Holmes, I think. Yeah.
So the temple,
And are there shelters of this kind in other places in Putnam County?
No. Well, there's one other shelter on the western side of the county,
Okay.
St. Christopher's. Most of their space, though, is recovery. They do have a few beds as a shelter. It's only for men. So it's very limited.
But
They
it's not-
couldn't pick up the whole,
It's not what you're doing.
caseload that we're doing, no. No, they're not here, and they don't have that kind of capacity. There are times, yeah, they're usually full, yes.
And to be clear, so everyone does remember, at present, even if we cannot do it, and we'll be looking into that, you're asking the town for $3,000, is that
Correct.
correct? And
Yes.
all towns. So
Yes.
anyhow, I really want to thank you for all you do.
Thank you. I appreciate your time, and I really respectfully ask that if there's a way to do this, that you help us find it, because we really need the help.
Well, I think what's good too is this is being recorded, which means people out there will see this
Okay.
and realize the need, and then private donations could be forthcoming too. I mean, I think
That would be
I think it's
wonderful.
not, more publicity is better. And if you're going to go to the different towns, the same thing would appertain, so that's, so there is good. It's
Have you
just a
made
matter
a
of-
presentation to the Village of Brewster?
Not yet, not yet. But we plan on it. We contacted them as well. We're not leaving anybody out,
Right,
so.
Yes, please.
yeah, that would be great.
Homemade, we don't waste our money. I have another one here, Dale. I have enough.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't need
No,
that.
that's good, no.
I'll get the one from the clerk.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you
Very much.
We appreciate what you do. Okay, we're going to move for the work session to the regular meeting. I'm going to make a motion to go into the regular meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
First one is Resolution Prospect Hill Office Park ARB recommendation. Now therefore be resolved that the town board hereby accepts and approves the report of the Architectural Review Board dated May 24, 2018, in connection with the application of Prospect Hill Office Park Phase 2 amended, which seeks to add a two-story commercial office building and an accessory parking facility to an existing site located at 162 Prospect Hill Road, tax map number 56.1-32.2 in the town of Southeast Putnam County, New York, a copy of which is annexed hereto and made part hereof, and that such report shall be incorporated in any final site plan subsequently reviewed and approved for the project by the planning board. So moved for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Second one is a resolution to fill the unexpired term 12/31/22 for the planning board. We interviewed earlier this evening three very qualified candidates, 2 men and 1 woman. It's like having 3 kids that you really care a great deal about, and you only can pick one of them to move forward. So with that, now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast hereby appoints Jack Gress, who has been duly recommended and deemed qualified to fill an unexpired term on the Southeast Planning Board to expire December 31st, 2022, and be further resolved that the appointment shall take effect immediately upon the taking and filing of the appropriate oath of office of the aforesaid appointee with the clerk of the town of Southeast. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion.
I consider Jack Gress a friend, and I think he will be excellent on this board. I will not be voting for Jack because I've been attending planning boards for over 20 years, and there has never been a woman on the board. And I felt that the woman interviewed tonight, who is also on one of our boards, was just as qualified. And so, as I said, I'm pleased to welcome Jack. He's very well qualified, but I would really like to see a woman on this board after 2 decades. So that will be my reasoning for voting, not voting in favor of Jack. But as I said, he is a welcome addition.
Any other comment?
I'm going to also withhold my vote from Jack Gress. I also was very impressed with his presentation. I value his insight. I've seen him deliberate at village board meetings, and I've been in discussions with him at other concerned residents of Southeast. One time he made a presentation to us. He's very knowledgeable, and tonight he demonstrated that knowledge when he interviewed with us. I would also prefer to have a woman on the board. I think a new insight on that board would be helpful. She is coming from the ARB, or she is sitting on the ARB right now, which looks at projects in a very specific, detailed manner at the end of an approval process. And I think having that perspective at the beginning of a project would be helpful. But again, I will not be voting for Jack, and I would have voted for the other candidate. But I am welcoming Jack to the board because I believe that he'll be a real asset to the community.
Any other comment?
I'll say that I've known Jack Gress for a number of years as a diligent, intelligent individual who always, in my opinion, tries his best to do the right thing. He is someone who researches thoroughly issues before a board. What I was very much impressed with was the fact that he stated that he had every intention to look at every project or whatever is before him with an adherence to the spirit of the comprehensive plan, as well as zoning ordinances. And I know him well enough to know that's what he's going to do. And he's been an institution here. He has been someone that I've trusted. I may not have always agreed with him, but that's okay, because he still will do that which he believes is right. And I believe he's a strong voice, and I believe he's been around a long time, and he's given to the community. He knows the projects, he knows the community. I was also impressed with both of the other applicants, and I mean both of the other applicants. But I think that Jack's experience, his integrity, his stick-to-itness, is something that we need on this planning board, and it's a voice that will be listened to. Yes, I think that it's time for a woman too, but quite frankly, if Jack was a woman, I'd be voting for Jack regardless. So just so that it's clear, I'm voting for Jack, and I believe the woman candidate, as well as the other gentleman candidate, were very qualified. That woman comes back here in a number of years, regardless of whether or not I'm here in the flesh or otherwise, then she would get my vote too. So tonight I will be voting for Jack Gress.
Anyone else?
Can you just spell his last name?
Gress. Thank you. You're quite.
I would just like to say, Liz, what I really agree with you on, and I thought it was a really interesting presentation, that Jack feels very strongly about our comprehensive plan, which I assume would include ridgeline protection, which is wonderful, and he seems to really respect our zoning as it stands. So that part, I really do look forward to his knowledge on the planning board.
Now, as I said earlier, we had 3 very qualified individuals come forward tonight, 2 men, 1 woman. I don't go by gender, it's a person. Every one of them, I would have chosen anyone. If we had I'm not going to be a third vote for one or the other, but I guess I will be regardless. But the bottom line, if someone had it, I would not say no to someone, because I believe every person that came in front of us this evening was very well qualified. And unfortunately, we only have 1 position and 3 very well qualified candidates. And anyone on the planning board that's maybe not happy, we got someone who will replace you tomorrow.
I'm sorry, I didn't mention, the other candidate was
James
very
King.
very well qualified, and people that are on these boards are giving of their time to look out for the benefit of the community, and I appreciate that people want to come out and volunteer for these things, and I think he would have been a great candidate as well. But anyway, thank you.
Roll call vote.
Councilman Alvarez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Eckhart.
No.
Councilwoman Hudak.
Yes.
Councilman Lord.
No?
Supervisor Hay.
Yes. Mr. Gress, I see you in the audience this evening. Congratulations. If you'd stick around till the end of the meeting. We shouldn't be too much longer, but if you've got a couple extra minutes this evening, just stick around and you can be sworn in this evening right after the meeting.
I did remember hoping to get that certificate for you.
Oh, so what Mr. Gress is handing us, and which we neglected to say, was that he has voluntarily, without knowing that he was now going to be the successful candidate, completed a land use law center. Congratulations on successfully completing the 2-hour training session entitled Land Use Law and Decision-Making Planning and Zoning, April 16th, 2018. It's a certification that is required, and he's done it, and that's great. But thank you again, and congratulations, Jack.
And Jack serves on the Village of Brewster zoning board as well, so thank you, Jack, for all your service.
Now, we're going to forward that tomorrow to Victoria. She'll be in touch with you. We'll give her your email address, your phone number, and she'll love to see that, because we have a few people on the planning board that are about 2 or 3 years behind, and you're right up to date, and that's great. Thank you. Okay, next item is recognition of public comment. No one here for public comment? Town Board.
I was just going to give the the Brewster High School girls lacrosse team an honorable mention and say congratulations. They're heading off to SUNY Cortland tomorrow for the semifinals. And if they win, then they head back to SUNY again on Saturday at 9 a.m. for the championship. So I just wanted to wish them good luck.
I heard today, good news, that the library, the one smaller edition, they're going to have a ribbon cutting, I believe. I'm not sure of the time yet, on June 30th. I spoke to Peter Carey, so that was exciting news, and we'll all be invited. And I believe there's a music festival in the village on Saturday. If anyone sees this, it's on the 9th, I believe. So anyhow, thank everyone for coming tonight.
Anyone else?
I'm just going to repeat what I say every time. Please, once again, make sure that you have your address displayed outside your house. It's very important for 911, for emergency responders. We recently I saw a violation from the building department that cited someone for not having that information. Forget about the violation. If someone is really needed at that location, and the first responders can't find that location because you don't have the numbers on, it could be a heck of a lot worse than just having a violation. So I would say again, please everyone, and if you have a neighbor that you're a little friendly with or not, or just, suggest that would be a great idea to have those numbers, that address displayed. It'd help possibly save a life, maybe your life.
Last night, I attended the Village of Brewster Board of Trustees meeting, and in new business, they had people come forward concerning the Envision Brewster project. And it looks like on August 1st, they're going to have I think a public information meeting detailing new plans for how the developer may be moving forward. The way the plans looked that were handed out last night, they appear to be starting at Borden Bridge and will be developing westward toward Marvin Avenue. So I would recommend that you, if you're interested, attend the August 1st meeting. Also, perhaps they'll have something on the website, the Village of Brewster website. And Peter Hansen said today that the minutes from the meeting will be available in the next few days, I believe. So,
John, do you know how many housing units they're proposing in that section?
From what I can gather from this brochure, it looked like about 150 units.
Okay.
It looks like 4 different sections.
Okay.
But anyway,
Do you know if the village has it available on their website?
I don't know. Peter
Well,
Hansen's a village clerk.
Can you possibly give him a call tomorrow and ask him if it is, so we can tell the public? Because I don't like to, basically respond to questions we don't have the answers to.
Right.
No, I don't have any answers. I'm just
No, but
giving
I'm
information.
saying, we said 150 units, but if they have something, hopefully have it posted on their website.
Yep.
And have the public go
Well,
there.
and they have a handout, so, yeah.
Okay,
That's-
but we don't know specifics.
The name of the project people was Sun Homes. That was the name of the gentleman who was going to be doing the building.
Okay.
But anyway, that's some information from the Village of Brewster, and I recommend you check it out.
And a question was raised to myself by Paul Camarda. He's the individual with State Line. The public hearing, and that is still open, and he basically has informed us that hopefully within the next 30 days, he'll have the issues resolved, but he's working on getting them resolved. Once he gets his DOT approval, he'll be back in front of us to close that public hearing. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to close tonight's meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do it as well. So just put the camera back
Yeah,
on.
that's fine.
All right, so what do we do?
I'm going to make a motion to go
To
back into a
reopen.
public session for comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. There was didn't seem to, I didn't hear anybody bring up the proposition that I had to the board tonight for approval of some paving My understanding was that it was going to be put on the agenda, and I don't see it on the agenda.
Well, I don't exactly know when was it said that it would be put on the agenda? The agenda generally comes out on, and I believe this one came out on Monday, I'm going to say? Tuesday, pardon me. So it came out on Tuesday, so I'm not quite certain why, A, you would believe it was on the agenda, and B, if so,
Well,
then why not?
It was something that I brought into the town hall today, and was said that there wouldn't be a problem for it to be placed on for your consideration. It's a relatively simple thing. I don't know if you haven't been presented with it, but it's to pave a couple of roads that were scheduled by our contractor to pave this week. And I was out of town until yesterday. I got it here at the earliest possible time that I could. It's a relatively simple thing. I have a copy of it here, but my understanding was everyone was going to be presented with a copy of it, so that's why I didn't bring copies for everyone.
Okay,
Just for the record, the town clerk received it around 4:25 this afternoon. It was given to me immediately. I emailed it to every town board member, and every town board member was given a copy of it, and they have it in front of them this evening.
so this is the agreement for the expenditure of highway monies. That's what you're referencing,
That's
right,
correct.
Mike? Okay. So how we basically do this is, I believe, now this has to do with the CHIPS money.
Not necessarily. It could come out of CHIPS money, the town money, EWR money. There's several different funds that it could be allocated through.
Okay, but my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, counsel?
I'll try.
Very good. That we need to approve expenditures out of the CHIPS money, not out of the highway fund. So in essence, that's why when I first saw this, this afternoon, late around 5-ish, maybe 5:15, my initial belief was that it was CHIPS money, because I don't think you need our approval for anything other than expenditure of CHIPS money. If it's a CHIPS money, then we need the approval, but that would be by means of a resolution, and the resolution would be something that would be presented at a meeting after the matter came on for a work session. And I think that's the route that I would otherwise say.
Essentially, I don't believe it would be done through a resolution. It could be done through this form as it has been in the past. This is a New York State 284 agreement that has spaces for approval by the members of the town council as well as myself.
Okay, well, it's been a while since I've been involved in, once again, approving CHIPS money. I think the last time was,
Okay.
I want to say when Kevin,
I mean, I'll stand corrected. I just thought
Oh, no,
that I
me
was
too.
trying to get
Believe
this
me, I'm
thing
the
done
first
in a
one that-
timely fashion, and
yeah, I'm the first one that would always say, fine, correct me, which is why I started out by saying that to Will.
I think the point is this. The 284 agreements are for the approval of the expenditure of CHIPS monies. If you want to spend your highway funds that are not CHIPS, that are not state aid to localities, you can do it without the agreement of this board. It's just the CHIPS money that has to go
Okay.
with the agreement of this board.
Yeah, that's why I,
If that's the case,
what
then
technically needs to be
there are
done.
other funds to pay this from my highway funds. This wouldn't be a requirement, then I'm sorry that I brought it to your attention.
No,
I
it's not-
thought it was, I just wanted to get these two roads done in an expeditious fashion, because this same company is coming to town to do some other work. There was some stuff that they did that was aesthetically unpleasing, and they're gonna redo those roads for free. And while they're in town, they can do this road at a reduced rate.
Mike, what's the name of the company? I apologize, I don't
It's
recall.
called Gorman.
Oh,
The
that's right.
Gorman Group.
Gorman.
They did some chip sealing and some fiber matting for us, and some of it didn't look aesthetically proper. And they're a very upstanding company. They agreed to come and perform this microprocess surface, which will put a new surface over the top of that at no charge to the town. And while they were here with that group of people, I wanted to address these other roads. Just the mobilization of their equipment can cost up to $2,000. So
What were the other roads that they're going to correct for free?
They are going, it
Just
may not be a total list, but it's gonna be, I believe, Welfare, Old Milltown, Sherwood, and then possibly Farrell Drive.
Oh, so that was like last year, right?
I'm sorry?
Was that last,
They
But-
did that actually almost 2 years ago.
okay.
And they were due to come back to repair it last year, and the weather gave in early, and they just weren't able to make it back.
So,
So they scheduled us for the first round of their work in the springtime, which is about now. They require certain temperatures to do that. So since we're the first on their list this year, I wanted to include Indian Well and Morning Dove. It's in need of sealing, and this will prevent any future damage to that road for a long time.
would it be
So
better if you used, I'm just throwing this out here, would it be better for you to use the CHIPS money? Because, certainly we could put this on next time around,
If you're willing to approve this tonight, I would either use EWR funds, which is extreme weather reserve from the state, the CHIPS funding, or there were actually three. They're all within the realm
Could
of the CHIPS funding.
Can I say, I really want to be clear about this in my own mind, too.
Yeah.
As I understood it, there was some kind of, there were people on Morning Dove and Indian Wells who I believe, and I could be wrong, didn't want this done. I think this is when Bob was on the board.
Yep.
I just want to make it clear that that you have every right to do this road as the highway superintendent. I don't want to approve this as CHIPS money or any other money, because it is your right to do it, and I don't think it sets a good precedent. If you do want to do this with CHIPS money, I wouldn't be comfortable till it's on the agenda, and so people will have the time, and they'll have the interest, if they do, to comment on it.
If I may, then, I think the confusion is that we're not doing fiber mat or chip seal. This is what the process called microsurfacing. It's an entirely different process
Right.
that looks different, handles different, but essentially levels and does what that road is a candidate for. There was some talk about doing the fiber mat up there, and it met with tremendous resistance.
Yes.
And this is a phenomenal alternative to that process that will seal roads, put a new wear course on it, and I believe it looks essentially like blacktop. So there should be absolutely no reservations from anyone up there.
No, and I respect you. It's your right as highway superintendent to do this. I just want to be clear that I don't want to do this at this stage and open this up for CHIPS discussion. It falls within your purview, and I respect that.
But just know that what I'm saying is, I would also feel like I am not in a position tonight to approve this for a
No, I'm not
variety of
either.
reasons, but the reality is, if you wanted to bring it back for the CHIPS money, I understand what you're saying. You're saying, hey, listen, I'd love, you're not saying you'd love to bring it back, but the bottom line is the people are ready and willing and able to go now. That's a different. So that would come out of your general budget, but I would look forward to having you come back to us, because I'd like to see the CHIPS money. How much money do you have in the CHIPS?
I will be back with the CHIPS funding. There are larger roads. We actually have CHIPS funding from last year as well as this year.
Okay.
I'm gonna say it's in the $200 and something thousand per year that we allocate, which is essentially enough to do about 9/10 of a mile of roads, depending on the process. So
Meaning the process would be paving or microsurfing?
would
or-
be grinding and paving.
Got it.
And unfortunately, the worst roads that we have, we can't pave over. We need to grind the surface down to a level surface and then apply a new blacktop course to that. So rather than use 1 year's CHIPS money to do 3/4 of a mile on one given road, as we have in the past, we've accumulated it to a point where there's enough to do a sizable road, say the size of Brewster Hill. Federal Hill needs a lot of work. Putnam Avenue's in very difficult shape. Those are probably the three of the worst roads that we have in town. So there, by no stretch, going to be a shortage of roads to utilize the CHIPS money in full with the extreme weather recovery money and any of the other money that we get from Albany will all be utilized this year on the roads that we're going to pave.
So that would be within the next few months, because when I know when it gets
That will
cold.
be, I will have that by the next town board meeting for your consideration.
And that would be with the CHIPS money.
That will be with the CHIPS money.
Then I think that would be a great idea. You just, excuse me, it would be better, at least for me, if I knew that it was on the agenda. Tony generally circulates or Michelle, or they circulate the agenda. We try to start with the town board around Monday to get more suggestions, but I would suggest to you, our meeting schedule is posted on the, and you know when our meeting schedules are, or just look on the website.
June 21st, I believe, is our next meeting.
But the bottom line being, of course, is that just, if that's what your intention is, ASAP, so that we can have it on the agenda so we can look at it. I think that'd be a lot better.
No,
And I'd look forward to.
I agree.
I mean, there's a lot of people that call us up that are pretty upset about the way the roads are, and I'd love to be able to say, hey, guess what? The highway superintendent is working on it.
we have.
I'm not at all comfortable with this as was presented. I think we're supposed to, as a board, agree with this highway superintendent on a yearly basis, what roads are going to be fixed every year. I mean, it's your decision, but you're supposed to present it to us for us
The
to.
CHIPS
It's the CHIPS.
Chips, and so I would like to see a resolution in time for us to consider it and discuss it with you before I'd be happy to sign off on it.
And I'd like to have people in the town sort of like, it would be great to have more of you here to listen to Mike regarding what the difference is between the micro surfacing and the other surfacing, the
Well,
fibro.
There's chip sealing, there's fiber mat, there's blacktop, there's a dozen or so different processes that we can do to either extend the life of the road. Some give them better ride, some will give them better substructure, some you have to actually mill the bottom. There's a big process going on in Carmel next week where they're gonna take off the old blacktop by milling, and then they'll re-blacktop. It's a relatively expensive process. We try not to use it unless we absolutely have to. Each road is based on its own merit.
Well, I think, public can look forward to something like that, and I'd like to invite you back to do that and just put it on the agenda, and we'll use good old state money to a good use.
It will be.
Very good. Thank you, Mike.
Okay, a couple quick questions. The other roads that you're going to be having done for free, were they done with CHIPS money originally?
I would have to look that up. I'm not sure.
Okay,
I don't believe they were.
so you don't believe that CHIPS money were used for that? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. Now, do you have any, you mentioned a few roads. Do you have right now, or you're going to come back soon to tell us what roads you plan to do for this year?
With the CHIPS funds?
CHIPS funds and other funds? Because you identified here this evening, you have $1,850,000
That's my general budget.
general budget, which you can pave roads with, and you got $392,000 in CHIPS money. So it says shall be set aside to be extended for the primary work and general repair of 89 miles of road. But are you going to identify at the next meeting how many miles we're going to do this year and what roads are being done?
I will.
Okay. Good.
Excellent.
Good.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome, man.
Sorry for
the confusion, but I was trying
No problem.
Yeah, I usually notice.
in a flash.
No problem.
It was adjourned, so.
And guess what? We're unconfused, which is the best thing.
I'll entertain a motion for the second time.
Make a motion to close tonight's meeting?
Is there a second?
It's too much fun tonight.
Come on, Will's got to get home.
I have one tonight.
Who said-
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming.